Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Jaya Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Asta Tarasata Shishima His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya Jaya Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Asta Tarasata Shishima His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai Mayapur Dhama Ki Jai Shamuna Mai Ki Jai, Ganga Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Srimate Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Garanga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Lord Ramachandra, Ram Navami Ki Jai, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Please take your seats. We're going to start the program this morning. Hare Krishna. Shri Ramachandra Bhagavan Ki Jai. Shri Ram Navami Mahotsava Ki Jai. Thank you all for coming. On behalf of ISKCON Bhaktivedanta Manor, we'd like to welcome everybody who's assembled here today for this festival. We would also like to give a very special welcome to His Holiness Chandramauli Maharaj. Okay, so the program this morning at the Haveli is as follows. So first of all, we'll start off with a Bharatnatyam dance, and it is on the song Kalyana Rama. It is by Kriti, so we'll be welcoming her here in a moment. After that, we'll have class, and this morning's class on the special Ram Navami festival will be given by His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu. So hopefully he'll be here in a minute. And then after that, we have Abhishek this morning from 9:45 onwards. Abhishek of Ram Sheela. After that, we'll be heading out to good old Watford for some Harinam and book distribution, some festival Sankirtan to get extra blessings. And some of us will definitely go, and if you'd like to go, you can make your own way there. Watford is not too far. And after that, we'll have a feast at 1:30 p.m. So the feast will be served opposite in the Seva halls. And then we also have an evening program from 4 p.m. onwards in the temple room. There will be kirtan, there will be a class, there will also be Pushpa offering flowers to the Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman deities. So that is all in the temple room this evening. And there will also be prasadam in the evening. So a full day of festivities. Please hang around, don't go anywhere. But we would like to start off by welcoming our temple president, Her Grace Vishakha Mataji, to come over and say a few words about the festival. Please welcome her with a big Haribol. Haribol.
Namo Vishnu Pradaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskya Tade Shatarane Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you all so much for coming for this very auspicious occasion, Ram Navami. On the Prabhupada's Back to Godhead magazine, right on the cover, he says how nescience or ignorance is like darkness, and knowledge is like sunlight. So the sunlight drives away darkness, just like the presence of Krishna drives away illusion or ignorance. So we want to invoke Krishna's and Ram's presence in our lives. This is our responsibility as human beings, and it's also Srila Prabhupada's wish for all of us to do that. And this is an occasion, Ram Navami is an occasion when we can all strive for that. And Prabhupada has made it so it's not so complex. We can avoid this controlling mentality, this mentality of trying to enjoy this material world by inviting Krishna, inviting Ram into our lives. And Ram says something very beautiful. It's quoted, Prabhupada quotes it in the Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, if one simply once surrenders unto him, sincerely, saying to Lord Ram, from this day forward I am yours, that he will accept that person. He will give that person courage to overcome the power of illusion, which is very, very powerful, much more powerful than we are. So we can all use this day to meditate on that, sincerely saying to Lord Ram, my dear Lord, from this day forward I am yours. And Ram will give us courage to overcome the illusory energy. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Lord Ramachandra.
Her Grace Vishakha Mataji ki. Okay, so we would like to start our program with a little dance from Kriti. Please come on stage, and the music is ready. Would you like to do an intro and tell us what the dance is about? Is that part of it? Okay. No, she doesn't need to say.
Hare Krishna. Today, because it's Navami, I will be doing a dance on Kalyana Rama. This song describes the appearance and beauty of Lord Rama, and also the wedding or Swayamvara of Lord Rama, where King Janak tells all the princes to lift
Dancing, I'll spare you the trouble. We're meant to have class now, but I'm not sure Vaisheshika Prabhu is here. Has anyone seen him around? Is there? Oh, he's just arrived. Okay, cool. I don't know. Should we just start a little kirtan while he comes and gets ready, and then you can. Yeah. So Gopal, Adon, Govinda, Prabhu, Sabha.
Good morning, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We noticed a lot of people driving around today and think they forgot to come to the program. And we're feeling sorry for them, as we noticed that several of them were playing music. Didn't sound like anything transcendental. It just had a sense of loss for the society and for the people in it, that they're missing the opportunity to sit and have a sangha like this. Smaranta smarayantascha, when you sit together and remember Krishna and remind other people of Krishna. Okay, go ahead. Smaranta smarayantascha, mita gauga haram harim. There's a way in which through meeting together, haram harim, Hari is the one who, haram, takes away aga, agauga, aga oga. Aga-oga means horrible, sinful residue that's built up from association with unholy sound and with unholy association. But the Srimad Bhagavatam then goes on to say that Bhakti Sanjayate Bhaktya, that by doing that, by doing what we're doing here today, sitting together and discussing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, remembering, causing other people to remember, then we move from one kind of bhakti to the next, and then as you advance in devotional service. And then the last line of the verse, it says that from doing this, then one's hair will stand on end. In other words, one will develop transcendental ecstasy with the process. So, what do you have to do to get in the back row there? Is that for a fire alert or something? Can you all move up? Come closer? Whoever can. It's just a better dynamic when you're closer. Better for me. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshama. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Parima. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahima. Krishna Keshava, Pahima. Lord Premanande, Haribol. I first offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to all the previous acharyas, and to all the assembled devotees. Vansha kalpatarvascha kripasanve evacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And now we get to read from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll be discussing the verse today from 9th canto, 11th chapter, Lord Ramachandra rules the world. And today's verse is 19. Let's do the word for word first. I'll say, and then if you'd like, you can repeat. Smaratam. Of persons who always think of Him. Hridi. in the core of the heart. Vinyasya, placing. Vidham, pierced. Dandaka kantakai, by thorns in the forest of Dandakaranya, while Lord Ramachandra was living there. Swapada Pallavam, the petals of his lotus feet. Rama, Lord Ramachandra. Atma Jyoti, the rays of his bodily luster, known as the Brahma Jyoti. Agat, entered, tata, beyond the Brahma Jyoti, or in his own Vaikuntha planet. And the translation is, after completing the sacrifice, Lord Ramachandra, whose lotus feet were sometimes pierced by thorns when he lived in Dandakaranya, placed those lotus feet in the hearts of those who always think of him. Then he entered his own abode, the Vaikuntha planet, beyond the Brahma Jyoti. Let's say it together. After completing the sacrifice, Lord Ramachandra, whose lotus feet were sometimes pierced by thorns when he lived in Dandakaranya, placed those lotus feet in the hearts of those who always think of him. Then he entered his own abode, the Vaikuntha planet beyond the Brahma Jyoti. And let's do the Sanskrit verse. Smarantam vriddhi vinyasya Vitam dandaka kantakai Sapada pallavam Rama Atma Jyotir agatata. Would anyone else like to lead the chanting? Tamriti Vinyasya Vidham Dandaka Kantakai Sapada Pallavam Brahma Atma Jyoti Vaishnavis Smaratamriti Vinyasya Vidham Dandaka Kantakai Sapada Pallavam Rama Atma Jyotir agatata. Smaratam vriddhi vinyasya Vidham dandata kantakai Sapada Pallavam Rama Atma Jyotir. And here's the purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The lotus feet of the Lord are always a subject matter for meditation for devotees. Sometimes when Lord Ramachandra wandered in the forest of Dandakaranya, thorns pricked his lotus feet. The devotees, upon thinking of this, would faint. The Lord does not feel pain or pleasure from any action or reaction of this material world. But the devotees cannot tolerate even the pricking of the Lord's lotus feet by a thorn. This was the attitude of the gopis when they thought of Krishna wandering in the forest with pebbles and grains of sand pricking his lotus feet. This tribulation in the heart of a devotee cannot be understood by karmis, jnanis, or yogis. The devotees who could not tolerate even thinking of the Lord's lotus feet being pricked by a thorn were again put into tribulation by thinking of the Lord's disappearance. For the Lord had to return to his abode after finishing his pastimes in this material world. The word Atmajyoti is significant. The Brahmajyoti, which is greatly appreciated by jnanis or monistic philosophers who desire to enter it for liberation, is nothing but the rays of the Lord's body. Yasya prabha prabhavato jagaranda koti kotishvashesha vasudari vibhuti bindam tad brahma nishkalam anantam ashesha bhutam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is endowed with great power. The glowing effulgence of his transcendental form is the impersonal Brahman, which is absolute, complete, and unlimited, and which displays the varieties of countless planets with their different opulences in millions and millions of universes. From Brahma Samhita 5.40. The Brahmajyoti is the beginning of the spiritual world, and beyond the Brahmajyoti are the Vaikuntha planets. In other words, the Brahmajyoti stays outside the Vaikuntha planets, just as the sunshine stays outside the sun. To enter the sun planet, one must go through the sunshine. Similarly, when the Lord or his devotees enter the Vaikuntha planets, they go through the Brahmajyoti. The jnanis or monistic philosophers, because of their impersonal conception of the Lord, cannot enter the Vaikuntha planets, but they also cannot stay eternally in the Brahmajyoti. Thus, after some time, they fall again to this material world. Arya Krishna Parampadam Tata Patantyato Nadrita Yushvarangraya. The Vaikuntha planets are covered by the Brahmajyoti, and therefore one cannot properly understand what those Vaikuntha planets are unless one is a pure devotee. This is strikingly a sweet and rasika type verse here in the description of Lord Ramachandra, because we find a parallel in a famous verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, in which the gopis are meditating on the Lord's lotus feet and are pained because of his possibly stepping on pebbles or thorns along the pathways of Vrindavan. And here we find devotees similarly meditating on the Lord's lotus feet and being pained by thinking of him being inconvenienced in any way. Of course, Prabhupada mentions he's not pained at all, but it's indicative of the ways in which devotees are so connected to the Lord in their meditation that they feel pain and think of any inconvenience of the Lord as a thunderbolt to their heads. We find that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to fast. He didn't have to, but he chose to when Ramachandra Puri had criticized him. Ramachandra Puri was a senior to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, ostensibly, and he had leveled the criticism because he saw ants. He said, "Oh, this sannyasi must be eating sweets here, because otherwise why would there be ants?" Of course, the author points out ants go here, there, and everywhere, especially in India. You may see them freely moving about. Why India? Anywhere. Ants probably are more plentiful than any other creature on the planet. You got to check ChatGPT for that one. Fact check whatever I say today. And therefore, it was an unnecessary and really an offensive observation. Nonetheless, Mahaprabhu restricted his eating, much to the pain of I was going to say chagrin, but it wasn't hard enough. It pained the devotees to think that Mahaprabhu was eating less. Because Hrishikena Hrishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchite, there's a way in which the devotees are the senses of the Lord. Of course, that's not what that verse says. The verse says that the devotees realize that the Lord is the master of their senses. Nonetheless, in the 10th canto, 14th chapter of the Bhagavatam, it's mentioned how The devotees are the expansions of the Lord. That's nothing new. That's mentioned by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Mamai vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Manakshastani indriyani prakritistani karshati. But that Krishna is the soul of all souls. There's an intimate connection between them. And the devotees are very much concerned with pleasing the Lord and making sure that there's no inconvenience for the Lord. And so this is a beautiful gem of a verse in this 9th chapter, bringing us to this understanding of how sweet the relationship is with the devotees of Ram, thinking of him in the forest. Of course, Ram and Krishna are the same, in a sense. There's 64 qualities that Krishna has, 52 Ram has, and, or is it 62 and 64. But difference is Ram is Maryada, whereas Krishna has no constraint. That's not the of the two, but I'm mentioning it, it's a difference. That is that Ramachandra is somewhat constrained in the mood of Maryada, in that he is observant of the rules of society. Of course, Krishna is known to be beyond all rules, dances with other people's wives in the dead of night in the forest and so on, unrestrained. And Ramchandra, of course, is extremely beautiful. As mentioned in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, he is one of the most beautiful forms of the Lord. So we find also in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada mentions in purport about how the sages who were in Dandakaranya forest had seen Ram while they were performing their bhajan there, and they were so attracted to his beauty. But the attraction they felt was of a conjugal nature and erotic nature. And they didn't say anything verbally, but they had this sense, very strong desire that they could be in a relationship, conjugal type of relationship with Ramchandra. And interestingly and tellingly, boy, this Bhaktivedanta Manor is a real who's who, isn't it? I mean, I'm looking around, there's all kinds of great souls here walking around in all directions. So it's a pleasure to be here. They didn't say it verbally, but they felt very strongly that they would like to have a conjugal relationship. But because Ram was in the Maryada mood, and he had ekapatni, one wife only, a vow for that, then he had accommodated them many millions of years later when he came as Krishna, when he was unrestrained. And they form one of the many groups of damsels of Vrindavan or gopis who consort with Krishna in that mood, conjugal mood. Among those groups of gopis are the Dandakaranya rishis. And it's indicative also of Krishna's response to the devotees. Of course, he says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mamavartmanavartante manusha parthasarvasha, which is that he reciprocates in kind when devotees have a particular desire to serve him in a particular way. He responds accordingly. And see how he accommodated them, albeit millions of years later. So if you've ever made a prayer and 5 minutes later thought, where's my thing? Just remember this. They waited millions of years in order to be accommodated by Krishna in the exact way that they desired. Krishna doesn't miss anything. In fact, Gajendra mentions this in his prayers to Krishna. He said, Krishna, you don't miss anything. In fact, you're always attentive. Whereas I'm not attentive, you are always attentive. And it's not that you only attend to my desires when I pray and I'm demonstrative about it. He said, you're always attentive. But it's helpful for the devotees when they pray. As Radhika Raman Prabhu once pointed out when he gave a class on prayer, he said when he was a kid and his mother was teaching he and his brother how to read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, they would be quite engaged with the Leela. But when it came to the prayers, they'd think, oh, no, not again. Because sometimes they'd feel that, oh, these are similar to other ones, and they felt them tedious. But really, realizing later, he began, in his more mature understanding and hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam, felt, oh, the prayers, that these are the expression of the devotees. We can understand their relationship with Krishna. And it's a very, very important part. So when we articulate our prayers to Krishna, then it helps us to understand what our position is, that we're able to say it to Krishna and express what our real desire is in his service. Nonetheless, even if we don't express it, Krishna, in the case of the Dandakaranya rishis, was fully attentive to their desire that they expressed in their heart. And this is the directing force in our lives, whatever we desire, that we'll attain. Krishna set up the whole material world in such a way that whatever we desire, we will be accommodated for. For instance, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Shariram yadavapnoti yachchap yukramatishvara grihitvaitani samyati vayurgandam ivashayat shotram chakshu sparshanam cha rasanam granam evacha adishtayam manaschayam vishayan upasevate. That whatever subtle desire we develop, Krishna compares it to the wind that blows through any area and picks up the scent of an area of a rose garden, or if you just happen to be driving and get stuck behind the garbage truck, you'll notice that it's odoriferous. And so he says that carries from one lifetime to the next, and we're accommodated. Shotram chakshu, we get the same kind of shotram ear, get a particular kind of ear. Shotram chakshu, certain kind of eyes. Rasanam, tongue. Granam, evacha. All the senses are given to us because of our specific desires to enjoy in the material world, or on the other side, if we want to serve Krishna in a particular way, then Krishna accommodates that. Example, Dandakaranya rishis. They thought, oh, he's so beautiful, I want to worship. I want to be in a relationship with him, very deep conjugal relationship, and Krishna reciprocated. And Prabhupada points out here in the purport that the Gyanis wouldn't appreciate this verse. Gyanis wouldn't appreciate it, that the Lord's lotus feet, that the devotees are pained by the Lord's lotus feet being pricked by thorns on the forest path. They wouldn't be able to do that. What to speak of karmis? And therefore we find that the devotional path is a feeling path, a bhakti. Nayam sukhapo bhagavan dehinam gopikasuta Gyaninam chatmabhutanam yata bhakti matam iha. A verse Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted many times. One of them that I'm sure you're already thinking of is to Vyankatabhata, when he was speaking to Vyankatabhata about how one would enter into how the Supreme Goddess of Fortune tried to enter into the rasa dance, but she wasn't able to do that because she couldn't change her mood in order to be a follower of the residents of Vrindavan, specifically the gopis. She wasn't able to enter into the rasa lila. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the supreme path is this feeling path, and that the jnanis don't have access to it. Neither do the karmis. Nayam sukhapo bhagavan dehinam gopika sutta. So those who are attached to the body, they also can't feel it. They don't get that special connection with Krishna. Karmis don't get it, jnanis don't get it, mystics don't get it, but it comes very easily to devotees. It's natural. Nayam sukhapo bhagavan dehinam gopika sutta jnaninam chatmabhutanam yata bhakti matam iha. But with bhakti, with this feeling of the heart for Krishna in service, as we see here, then very easily one can attain Krishna. So, thinking of today and the poor people who couldn't find their way here to celebrate Lord Ramachandra's appearance day, how would they be benefited? Srimad Bhagavatam says, Anugrahaya bhaktanam manusham dem ashrita, that bhajate tadrashi kridha yashutva tat paro bhavet. What a great verse for an appearance day. You can thank me later. Thank the Bhagavatam later. Anugrahaya means mercy. Interesting because anu and graha means a grabber, like the planets are grabbers, and so anugrahaya means someone who pulls you in the right direction. That's nice, right? Pulls you along. Do you ever thank somebody for pulling you along in the right direction in your life? Please say yes. Yeah, you should thank somebody. Anugrahaya bhaktanam manusham deham ashita means that the Lord comes as with a beautiful human form, like we find at the end of the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is saying to Krishna, "No more, I don't want to see this." It's really scary. It's shaken him deeply, seeing the universal form of the Lord. And so Krishna shows him his forearm form, and then he shows him his Somya Bapu, his beautiful two-arm form, highly relatable, and a form that perfectly suited for very deep relationships with Krishna, either in friendship or parenthood or servitude, and of course the conjugal relationship, and Krishna especially is the epitome. That's Krishna, what Krishna means, that he can facilitate all of those rasas. He's the king of all rasas. So that's why he appears in this human-like form. Manusham deha means a human-like form. Asita bhajate tadrashi kridha yashrutva tat parovavet. So why does he do it? Then he says, the verse says, he does it because yashrutva tat parovavet. What are you going to talk about? I mean, people driving around out there today, what are they going to talk about? They have many mundane subject matters to discuss. How to put stripes in toothpaste. I don't know if that's a long gone conception, but it was a big deal when I was a kid, when they figured out how to put stripes in toothpaste. A major breakthrough for the world. But there are other such matters to discuss on the corporate level, boardrooms and so forth, and people gathering to see how to protect their wealth or do other such things which don't amount to anything, because ultimately everyone ends up losing it all in any case, and the stripes won't make that much difference in the end. So, Yashrutva tat parovavet, because Krishna wants to give everyone the opportunity to speak about him, to remember him. And therefore he not only appears in a human-like form, but he has amazing activities. He brings to us his lila, to intrigue us. Of course, we hear about Divyanam Prabhu was telling me that his father, growing up in a rural environment, when people had, I remember even at Govardhan Hill, when TVs first came in, and we'd be going around Parikram early in the morning, and you'd find people crowded in to watch TV, and you go by and see what's there, and there'd be some Ram Leela. And he was mentioning, it was Divyanam Prabhu, that when the series of the Ram Leela would come on the television, then everyone would quit working and the whole city would shut down. I think it even happened in larger cities as well in India, that everyone would go and just sit there and be completely absorbed. They were glued to the television to watch the series on Lord Ramachandra. Well, Krishna does that intentionally. Yashrutva tat parovavet gives us something to talk about. Otherwise, what are you going to talk about? What topic do you have, sir? Nothing that will liberate you, for sure. So, what to do? Srimad Bhagavatam. And the pastimes of Ramachandra are of transcendental origin. Krishna has ways in which he appears in this world, and he also causes the topics of his Leela to appear. Valmiki was part of a hill tribe when he was born. He grew up in a nondescript way. There was some rumor that he had lost his parents, although it was unknown to him, his history. It was hearsay in the village about his parentage being of a high level, but here he was, part of the hilly tribe. And they made do with whatever the earth produced, but also they were known for thievery as well, to support themselves, which is an occupation that Valmiki, it wasn't Valmiki at that time, I'll get to his name later, but he had taken to stealing. Tourist-type people would come through the region, and he would ambush them and steal their goods. Sometimes there was violence. I won't go into any details because it's a holy day today. And living like this, there was an intervention in his life, and that was that one day he saw some sages in a clearing in the forest and thought, this should be an easy one, because here they are, unarmed and unaware, and I will simply ambush them, attack them, take whatever goods they have, and I'll be back to my family in no time. And as he charged forth into the clearing, the sages then looked up very calmly, without alarm at all, and he was a little taken aback. And they asked him, do you intend to rob us? And he answered in the affirmative. And then they said, very well, we'll give you all our treasure, whatever we may have. But first you must answer our question. And this has never happened for him before. So he said, please, go ahead. Ask and I will answer to the best of my ability. And they said, you're here committing violence in the middle of the forest, a peaceful place, and here we are, sages, not wanting to harm anybody, but you want to harm us. Are you willing to take the sinful reaction for your work? Second question, your family for whom you're stealing will also get a sinful reaction. Are they willing to take the sinful reaction for your work? And he said, I'll have to think about that. Let me go ask my family first. So he went back to his family and informed him of the unusual occurrence that day and said, this is what happened. I was about to attack and bring back the bounty as usual, but these group of sages had asked me this question, and it made me curious. And he asked his family members, will you take some of the sinful reaction for all the violence I'm committing to bring back this wealth? And they said, simply, no. And that made him reconsider his whole life in that moment. Amazing how an intervention by sages who ask us a simple question can make us examine our whole lives. He went back to the sages in a very thoughtful mood and said, what can I do? And they said, well, if you want to become free from your sinful reactions, then first of all, you should give up what you're doing. And don't worry for your family, because God will help to support you. And you must chant the holy name of Ram. And of course, the Srimad Bhagavatam opens with the admonition, Apana samsritim goranya nama vivishogranam tata sadyo vimucheta yad bibheti swayam bhayam. That anyone living in this very fearsome material world who recognizes that it's a treacherous environment in which we're subjected to birth, death, old age, and disease, and all kinds of an onslaught of other anxieties that come upon us. What should we do about that? The Bhagavatam gives the remedy in the first chapter. It says, Apana samsritim ghoram. This material world's horrible, dangerous, fearful, fearsome. Yanama vivashogranan. You should take the name of the Lord. Tata sadyo vimucheta. Because immediately, yad bibheti swayam bayam. You'll be freed from all fear, because the name of God is feared by fear personified. And he will save you, the name. If we think in the Ramayana also, the prominence of the name Lord Ram, when Ram and his minions were building a bridge to Lanka, they had made the stones float. But how did they do it? They would chant the name of Ram. And they'd put the stone in the water, and then the stone would float. And in that way, they created a floating bridge all the way. Of course, Ram could have done anything himself, but to give this glory to his devotees, he did that. There's some Puranic, maybe it's Aitiyam, I'm not sure, but I've heard something about how Ram had also come to assist and put rocks in the water, and his didn't float. And they said, no, you have to chant the name. Thus indicating that the name is even more powerful than the Lord himself. And not so outside of Shastra, as we say, from Rupa Goswami in his Namashtakam, he says, Vacham, Vachakam, Ityudeti. He says there's Vacham and Vachakam. There's the name and the named. And he said, okay, they're the same, right? Say yes. Just go along. Yes. Yeah. And he said, no, they're not. They're different. Because the name is more merciful than the named. Because we may be estranged from Krishna because of our own misguided ways. But the name is so merciful that it comes after us and brings us back. So they told him, you chant the name of Ram, 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 Rama, 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 Rama. This was Narada, by the way, as the spokesperson for the sages. And he couldn't move his tongue. And he said, I apologize, but I'm too sinful. A person as sinful as me, I can't even utter the name of God. What shall I do? They said, never mind. Because of the horrible ways in which you've engaged with the world, you can chant the name of death, Mara, and just repeat it over and over again. Essentially, devotees like to trick people into chanting sometimes, just like we find Gadadhar Das had entered the palace of the Qazi and was making a ruckus, even in front of these dangerous guards with swords who were guarding the palace. And he was saying, I want the Qazi to come out now and chant Hare Krishna. And they said, kid, you better get out of here. And Qazi, hearing the ruckus, came out to his balcony overlooking the foyer, and said, "What's all this ruckus?" He said, "This little cowherd boy," he was a follower of Lord Nityananda, "is in here demanding that you chant Hare Krishna." He said, "I'll chant Hare Krishna another time." And he said, started dancing. He said, "Never mind, you already did it." He was so happy. That happened to us last time we were in Watford. I met a gentleman from Pakistan, and I showed him everything, and he declined everything respectfully. And then he said, "Well, just chant Hare Krishna." He said, "I do not chant Hare Krishna." And all the devotees similarly said, "Haribo." What did I do? He thought. So Narada started all that. He told him just chant Mara. So he chanted Mara, 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 Rama. And of course, the syllables in succession come out to Rama anyway. And he sat down and achieved a samadhi. The sages, headed by Narada, then left and came back a long time later. I hate to tell you even how long later, but it was a long time. And in the place where he had first sat, no longer was there the form of this hill tribe member, but there was an anthill. And in his samadhi, he had sat still for so long that the ants built a hill over him. And when the sages then came close and listened, put their ear upon the anthill, they could hear inside, Rama, 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 Rama. And Narada said, "Valmiki, come out!" And when he heard the voice of his spiritual master, he burst out of the anthill. The name Valmiki means one who emerged from an anthill. That's the name. The meaning of the name. And by chanting the name of Ram, he became completely aware of the pastimes of the Lord. It said he was able to see them directly, as if they were being enacted in the same room. And he was only taking down the notes of what he saw to write the Ramayana and all the pastimes of the Lord. In that way, Yashrutva Parovavet, Krishna came as Lord Ramachandra, and he empowered Valmiki to write about it so that everyone could hear about the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. And in the story of the Ramayana, we find the story of great sacrifice. And we find the story of Maryada, adherence to truth and justice. Where else do we find complete adherence to truth and justice? It's so rare, especially in Kali Yuga. Now nobody cares anymore. In fact, I remember when I first joined the Krishna consciousness movement, and I read in the Srimad Bhagavatam that Dharma, the bull, stands on 4 legs, and the only leg left standing is truth. And Prabhupada says, perhaps in his purport there in the first canto, or else it was in the lecture, that now we can see from the court system that at least there's a reckoning. If somebody tells a lie or they did something reprehensible, they're held to the truth when they come before the judge. And then you see the pan scales, and it's equal. The law is administered equally to everyone. But that's wavering in the Kali Yuga. People don't necessarily tell the truth. So we find in the character of Ram one who's so truthful and committed to duty that when he was told to give up the kingdom, it wasn't that he hesitated even for a moment. He said, "Oh, that is the desire of my father, the order of my father, therefore I give it up." This is something to meditate upon, of doing duty. Of course, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says it again and again, that be dutiful, do your duty. Don't consider loss, gain, victory, defeat, but do as you've been instructed by your superior, and then you'll never incur sin. Correct? Only 3 people said yes? Yeah. And so this is one of the features of the Ramayana and Ramachandra's Leela is the amazing way in which he takes the order of his father. This is mentioned according to the ancient Bhagavatam commentator Sridhar Swami, indicated in the verse Tyaktva dusija suripsita raja lakshman dharmishta arya vachasa yadagararanyam mayam ragam dayite ipsitam anvadavad vande mahapurusha te charanadavindam. This verse indicates, actually Prabhupada says, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says, Sadbhuj, the form of the Lord that has the arms of Lord Ramachandra, which are doing what? Bow and arrow? You agree?
Yes.
And then Lord Chaitanya, Kamandalu, and? Yeah. And then Krishna. So, Sridhar Swami says, Tyaktva sadusyaja, that which is desired by everyone, Ramchandra gave up. Who the goddess of fortune, what to speak of a whole kingdom. Now, people hold on to their positions. Prabhupada mentions this. It's very difficult for people to give up. They have some power, they have some position, they can't give it up. Seems to be ubiquitous. And here's Ram, he's a young person, and he's just been given the whole kingdom, unlimited power of the king. And then he hears that his father has to fulfill the promise that he gave to his wife, Kaikeyi, and that he has to not only give up the kingdom, but he also has to go to the forest and give up everything, all his possessions. And what did he say? Yes, Father, I'm going immediately. In fact, he only lamented that his father didn't tell him directly, because Kaikeyi told him, because his father was so overwhelmed with what had just happened, the reversal in his life. And this is another feature of the Ramayana, something we can view for ourselves in the ways in which reversals come in this world. Nobody comes through this lifetime without some reversal that is devastating. So he accepts his father's command, and this is indicated in the verse that Sridhar Swami says indicates Ramchandra, and that is Dharmishta Arya Vachasa, which means that his father was the Arya, or his superior, and he gave him this command that you have to go to the forest, you have to give up up your kingdom. And so he, Krishna's opulence, as Ramachandra, is that he walked away from the goddess of fortune, from his kingdom, and he did that because he adhered to Arya Vachasa, the order of his father. Dharmishta Arya Vachasa Yadagad Aranyam. And where did he go? Aranyam, to the forest. See, it's right there. Mayam Mrigam, Mrigam means the deer. There it indicates, according to Sridhar Swami, the pastime of Ramchandra chasing after Marichi in the form of the deer, who had committed this ruse in order to distract Ram so that Ravana could steal Sita. So Mayam Ragam Tayite Ipsitaman Vadavad. But it's also indicated in that verse that the Lord comes, in all cases, Mayam Ragam, to chase after those who are in Maya and to help them bring them back to the kingdom of God. The leaving of Ram's leaving of Ayodhya, Sita's insistence that she go with him, despite the fact she was a princess, and Lakshman's also insistence that he go, and also the recognition that the Chaitanya Charitamrita gives that Lakshman was younger brother. And it's the last time he appeared as a younger brother because of this pastime. He was so angry that Ram gave up the kingdom. He said, as Balaram or Sankarshan would, and that's his identity, that why should you give it up? Fight for it. Why let these people take it away from you? But he had to obey his older brother, so he went along. So it's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, never again, I'm not going to be the younger brother anymore in these pastimes. And as they leave Ayodhya, the pathos in that story of the devotees losing their life, and the description of Ayodhya afterwards, that the music was gone, the place was unkempt, and there were people simply pining for Ram, this feeling of a deep separation, that he's gone, and the kingdom not the same. And this is also, can be palpable. People are suffering in the world, as Prabhupada writes many times in his purports, for lack of Ram Raja. Once when I was in Thailand many years ago, there was a moderately good king. Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that, because that means I'm disparaging other kings, or maybe not exalting him enough. He's a great king. In fact, even here in this country, I was sending some postcards, and I was haphazardly putting some of them on the postcards, and one of the devotees here, who knows the postal system, came in and said, "That's not going to go." And I said, "Why?" He said, "You put the queen upside down. It's an offense. You can't do that." There was at a time a sense of the king. Nowadays, with democracy, there's a way in which people try to get away from kings. The sociologist Erich Fromm talks about how people are always trying to find freedom. Once they get it, they try to escape it. It's called, his book called Escape from Freedom. But when there's a Ram Raj, when Krishna is the king, and that's Ramchandra, then you have complete peace. And going back to Thailand, it was a good king. He was educated. He actually had some thoughtfulness about ruling the kingdom of Thailand at that time and providing for people. He was starting agricultural projects, and there were some good things going on. And you could sense it throughout Thailand. The people felt peaceful. The place felt peaceful because there was a good ruler. I'm not going to make any current comments about current geopolitical situations, because it's not necessary. By contrast, just by thinking of it, you can imagine somebody who's completely truthful, completely virtuous, isn't attached to the position at all, and is ready to walk away on the order of the superior, of what it must feel like in such a situation. What to speak of the people of Ayodhya, whose life and soul was Ram. As mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also, Prabhupada tells about a devotee of Ram. And when Ram would go away from the kingdom, he would fast, because he said, if I can't see the Lord, then I'm not going to eat. And sometimes Ram would be away for 5 days a week, 8 days, and come back, and his devotee would have fasted all those days. So Ram personally had a deity of himself made and given to that devotee so that he wouldn't have to fast. That was his consideration. But also think of the heart of that person. I won't eat unless I see the Lord. That was the temperature, the devotional temperature of Ayodhya. So when Ram left permanently to go to the forest, or at least for 14 years, with Sita and Lakshman, how the people were pained because they couldn't see him, and it was upheaval because now they didn't know who was going to be in charge. So this Ram Raj, Prabhupada said, is very much necessary. There has to be a honest, virtuous leader. We have to have virtuous leadership. And when they got to the edge of the forest, where they would leave all the citizens, Ram mercifully ditched them, because they would have continued to follow him into the forest, and he wanted to make a clean break. So they needed passage across, was it the Sarayu? Sarayu River, is that there? Yeah. And there's a story from Valmiki Ramayana about Kevat. You know Kevat? He was the boatman for Guha. Guha was the forest king there who had good relationships with Dasarath and was welcoming of Ram, and saw that he was leaving, going to the forest, gave him all facility there. And Kevat was the boatman there who took him across the river. So there's this poignant part of the Leela where Sita, they didn't bring anything, but she had a ring, and she offered it to Kevat for taking them across the river. And he said, I can't take it. No payment, because we're in the same profession. See, in the Vedic process, if you cut hair and then the other hair cutter from next door comes over, you don't charge them, because same profession. That's the rule. And so Ram was a little curious, and he said, same profession. You're a boatman. I'm an ex-prince, exiled prince. And I said, so how are we the same profession? He said, I'm taking you across the Sarayu now, but when death comes, my Lord, my wish is that you conduct me across the ocean of material existence. So, same. It reminded me when I just recently read that again about in Chaitanya Leela of during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Mahaprakash, of where he finally showed himself as the Supreme, sat down on Srivasa's altar and demanded the devotees come forward and offer him food. He ate all the bananas in Bengal practically, drank gallons of milk and stuff, and says, is that all you have? And they gave him an Abhishek there, and then he started giving benedictions freely and calling all his devotees to come. And during that time, he would tell the devotees about their lives and things that that nobody else would know. And one devotee named Gangadas had come there before him and said, Gangadas, do you remember the time when you were being pursued by unsavory people and you got to the bank of the Ganga and there was no boats and it was late at night and you had your wife and your child with you and you would have been molested, they would have been molested, probably all of you killed, and you thought, first, there's no boat, let us drown ourselves before we're killed like this and insulted as we are killed. And then you made a prayer. You said, my Lord, please, I have no one else but you. You please save me. And just then a boat appeared. And you got in and you went across the Ganga with that boatman. I was that boatman. I brought you across and saved your life. And I just saw a parallel there that Srimad Bhagavatam says, Samashrita ye padapalava plavam mahatpanam punya yasho marade bhavam buddhir vatsa padam haram padam yad vipadam natesham. Describes the material world as this huge ocean. And so the Lord, it's a prayer to the Lord that, and a recognition that don't take shelter anywhere else except for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Can conduct you, take you across this ocean. And sometimes the devotee takes the Lord, as in the Ram Leela, Kevat takes him across the Sarayu, and in the other pastime, the Lord takes the devotees across. But in either case, it's the Lord who delivers us from this dangerous material world. I'll just take a few reflections or questions just to stimulate the conversation. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, welcome back to the Manor.
Thank you.
In this 9th canto, in one of the verses, it speaks about how the residents of Ayodhya, for them there was no death if they didn't want it. I've always been fascinated by that, but never really quite understood what that looks like practically.
Yes, because with all the intrigue and Ram's leaving for the forest and then leaving Sita at the forest edge to be taken care of in an ashram, it all comes back at the end when he takes all of the residents of Ayodhya back to the supreme abode. And so that's in Krishna's Leela also. After killing Dantavakra, he enters into Vrindavan, and it's described there. There's a long purport about how Krishna manifested in 3 ways in his bhava form in Vrindavan. He dispatched all of those plenary expansions of demigods who had taken birth to enact the Leela back to their heavenly planets, and he took others straight back to Goloka Vrindavan. And so the Lord, when he conducts his Leelas, brings his associates back home, back to Godhead. And that's the case there also. So there is no death for those who are engaged in devotional service. They simply go back to Godhead. That's my answer, and I'm sticking with it. Okay.
Thank you.
What else? What else would you like to discuss or bring up about this verse, the Ram Leela, this day? Or would you like me to go into more detail about anything I said? Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. I want to ask, there seems to be some sort of, debate about what time did Lord Ram appear, because in terms of fasting-wise, like some people fast till midday, some till sunset, so I just wanted to understand a bit more.
Today is fasting till death. You can ask for Shaka if she concurs. No? What time is everyone fasting till today? 12? I can't remember. Till 1 o'clock? I have a notice that I sent out on all the... Do you get that? What did it say on the thing I sent out? It's called Sacred Times. And it comes out before any fasting day. And what did it say? Because we researched that very meticulously about what Prabhupada said and what the GBC has decided upon. Do you know? Have you seen it? 12 o'clock. Confirmed. If it's in Sacred Times, I guarantee you it's accurate. Okay, yes. Oh, he was hearing a class in Srila Prabhupada. It's given on 1st April 1974 in Mumbai.
On Ram Navami.
And Ram Navami.
Srila Prabhupada was saying that we fast on Janmashtami till midnight because Krishna appeared at midnight, and we fast on Ram Navami till midday because he appeared at noon. So I just wanted to mention that.
Confirmed. Okay. It's nice to know, right? Yeah. Okay, another question? Yes.
So when the Shastric Advisory Council, they investigated this, they found statements of Prabhupada saying you should fast until sunset, but then Prabhupada's instructions on the actual days were break the fast early, and I think his motivation was to not inconvenience the people in general. But then when they investigated the Shastra said you should fast from sunrise to sunrise. So that means wait another whole day.
You could, if you want to observe fast very strictly, then just do from sunrise to sunrise. It's like Ekadashi. I mean, not to get into this whole fasting thing right now, but since it's come up, it's a nice topic. Fasting for Ekadashi. If you go to, first of all, in Vrindavan, you may go somewhere and they'll say, "Oh, it's Ekadashi," and we're going like, "No, it was Ekadashi yesterday, or it's tomorrow," because they have slightly different schedules according to their. There's Smarta calendars and there's other calendars, And similarly, about what's Ekadashi friendly, that's definitely an unlimited topic for contention. And so there's only one answer that if you want to be clear on that, and just don't eat anything. Otherwise, just don't get into it. It's not important. It really doesn't matter. Prabhupada wasn't a fanatic about all these things, and we're not into the smarta vihar. You should chant and hear always, every day. And when Ekadashi comes, it should be pretty much the same, only different. And they say that in Thailand, same, different. So just do the best you can with, if you like carrot halva, fine. If not, then just don't eat grains. And if you don't know what grains are, which nobody does, nobody knows what a Hindu is, nobody knows what grains are, so just don't eat, and then you're fine. Okay, yes, please. We'll bring you the mic.
Oh, sorry. On the 26th of March 1968, and Srila Prabhupada says, our next ceremony is Lord Ramachandra's birthday on the 7th of April. It should be observed in the same way as Lord Chaitanya's appearance day, namely fasting up to evening and then accept Prasharam. And all our ceremonies should be performed with continuous kirtan, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna.
This is England, this is what I expect.
But
okay.
On the opening of the Krishna Bharam temple, which was on Ram Navami, Dhananjaya was the temple president with Bala Gopal and everything, and Prabhupada told him that we fast till the evening because some devotees were eating at noon. And Prabhupada talked to Dhananjaya, and I said, why are they eating? They say, should be moonrise. Dhananjaya is in Vrindavan right now. You're welcome to ask
You should call him.
Well, I
Thank
speak
you.
to Bala Gopal quite a bit, so I'll bring it up again. But every year we have the issue. So I never usually say anything, but because it's been presented like this in front of all the devotees, I thought I should read that letter. And yes, we were all together at the Krishna Bharam temple opening, and this is what Prabhupada told us.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Anything else that's not fasting related? Okay.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the wonderful class. My question was, if you can elaborate a bit more on the mercy of Lord Sri Ram, because I heard in a class that both Bali and Vibhishan, they did the same, they commit the same crime, that is, they kept the wife of their brother. But because Vibhishana had surrendered to Lord Ram, so Lord Ram didn't punish him, but for Bali, he actually punished him. So anything you can share on the mercy of Lord Ram, whoever surrenders unto him.
Okay, so you're talking about Bali and Vali.
Yeah, the brother of Sugriva.
Yes.
He was punished, he was killed
Yeah.
because he had committed a crime. But Vibhishana, he was not, because he was surrendered on to Lord Ram, so he wasn't punished because even Mandodari, he kept Mandodari after
Yeah,
Ram
we
was
find
killed,
of Bali after he's killed by Ram. Actually, he's not killed yet, but when he's in the throes, he capitulates. And there's a very heart-rending scene there that he challenges Ram in the throes of death and says, why you, as the bastion of Dharma, killed me from behind a tree. And then Ram is strong with him, and he says, for all the crimes you've committed, he said you deserved to be executed like this. And amazingly, Vali capitulates at that point and admits that Ram has been merciful to him by executing him, and then it was rightly done. So there is that at the last part of Vali's life. And of course, Bibhishan, glad you brought it up because it brings forth one of the verses that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions from the Ramayana. When he's teaching Sanatana Goswami, he gives this verse specifically talking about the mercy of the Lord in general. When he says, Sakradeva prapano yas tada asmi tadyachate. Abhayam sarvada tasmai dadam yetat vratam mama. Vratam mama means my vow, my vrata is that sakrit eva prapano yas tada. What's the first word? Tada asmi charyachate. Abhayam sarvada tasmai dadam yetat matam vratam mama. My vow is that if anyone, even one time, surrenders to me, sakrit, one time, sakrit eva prapanoyas, and says, I take shelter of you. Yachate. That's what they say. So he says, from that day forward, dadam yetat vratam mama, my vow is that I will be that person's protector. I will never forget that utterance of that person, that they're taking shelter of me. So in the case of Bibhishan, during the war, when everyone was suspect and he came forward as a turncoat from Ravana, he could have been sent away, but Ram trusted him and took the counsel of Hanuman that, yes, he's sincere. So he took the word of Vibhishan, and this is something in conjunction with Krishna's utterance in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says what? 1866, Sarvadharman Parityaja, Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, Aham Tvang. Help me out here. Yeah, and Jiva Goswami gives some commentary on that verse and says that devotees everywhere always remember that verse, that Krishna gave this offer to everyone in the world, that if you surrender to me, I'll deliver you from all sinful actions. Do not worry, do not fear, do not hesitate. Yes, Prabhu.
In this verse, there's mentioned that devotees place the lotus feet of the Lord within their hearts. What's the practical application of this?
Yeah, it reminded me of, what's the verse in the preamble to the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Hladi. Huh? Anarpita Charim Chirat Karune Avatirana Kalo Samarpayitum Tojvala Rasam Sobhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadamba Sandi Pitaha Sada Hridaya Kandare Spuratu Vasachinandana. So he says, he's giving this benediction. It's Rupa Goswami wrote that verse, and then he says, with everything else, at the end he says, may the Lord always be there situated within your heart. And so your question was, what does it mean they place those lotus feet in their hearts? It's because the heart is, the devotees give their hearts to Krishna. It's not an intellectual process, but they're smitten by love for Krishna. And therefore, it's heartfelt that they keep the Lord's lotus feet within their hearts. That sounds a little redundant, but the heart is, even in modern, what is it? In modern scientific research, the heart has the same kind of nerve endings as the brain does. It's replete with a complex system of nerve endings. It's not necessarily functional in the sense of needing it to pump the blood or anything like that, but we feel with our hearts. So when we say something's heartfelt, it's very literal in the sense that we think of Krishna within our hearts. Time is over? Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry. This year, around the world, everyone's joining together on every continent, including Antarctica. We have some scientists there who are interested in participating. And combinedly, we've taken a goal to distribute 100,008 Srimad Bhagavatam sets around the world. Yeah, keep clapping. because you have one of the biggest quotas in the whole world. Because you're a mighty yatra here. And so Divyanam had some ideas about what number could be there, and they said, oh, no, that's an introductory number for this year, because it's a drastic increase. Do I have 2 more minutes, or should I just stop now? Okay. You may know or may not know that between 2019 and 2020, we had one of the biggest spikes in book distribution in known history in ISKCON. Did you know that? Do you know what happened in 2020? There was a pandemic. And we had made a vow to distribute at least 10,000 sets of Bhagavatams worldwide in 2020. And we made that vow in 2019 at the midterm GBC meetings in Tirupati, and a vow before the deities and the GBC body. And then 2020 started and there was a pandemic. But something amazing happened. We distributed 24,000 sets of Bhagavatams during the pandemic. Say Haribol. And that was a approximately 240% increase. Now, from where we are now, which is at 40,000 sets of Bhagavatams worldwide, to get to 100,008 Bhagavatam sets, it's only about 170% increase. So it's less increase than we had before, during the pandemic. Of course, we have a war going on, could turn into World War III, which means that we should really do big this year, because we thrive under pressure. I thank everyone very much, and sorry for going over time. I was oblivious. I say it's because of jet lag. We just got in last night. And I'm so thrilled to be here and feel humbled in your presence. And we pray, dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Gaurnitai, Shri Shri Radha, Gokulananda, Shri Sita Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman. If you so desire, please let us place your lotus feet within our hearts, and please let us march fearlessly into the world of the Kali Yuga and distribute 100,008 Srimad Bhagavatams this year for Bhadra Purnima. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer, please say Hare Krishna. Vansha Kalpatarishya Kripa Sindhabe Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. I just want to let everyone know that there are some gifts for everybody which Vaisheshika Prabhu will be giving out. So before you leave, please get them from the back. But don't leave yet. We have an Abhishek, but also I want to remind you that between 11 and 1, we're having festival Sankirtan in Watford Town Centre, and His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu will also be there. So it's a great opportunity to be out there doing Harinam and distributing books. So please do consider that as part of your schedule. We're going to set up here now for Abhishek. And I want to request the people who want to do the Abhishek are, number 1, altar clean. They're also second initiated, and they are in devotional clothes. So that means like a dhoti and a chadar for men and a sari for women. If you don't fulfill these 3 conditions, please do not queue up. But otherwise, we're going to start kirtan and get ready for the Abhishek. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Shri Ramachandra Bhagavan ki Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve. Everyone together. Gauravani Prachari Nirvisesha Shanyavadi Deshatarina Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna, everyone. Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everyone please. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo bolo, everyone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Hare Rama Rama Everyone together, please. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare
Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Hare Krishna dear devotees, that concludes our program in the Hawaii for this morning, but we are going to carry on with the program in Watford. So in Watford there will be Harinam and book distribution with His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, so you can make your way there and come back here for the feast at 1:30 p.m. And this evening also there will be program in the temple room with flower Abhishek of Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman, and also kirtan, and also class from 4 p.m. onwards. So that is in the temple room this evening. Feast at 1:30, but Harinam and book distribution now. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.